Hey, what is going on, guys? Max Settings here, and welcome back to another review. So you can probably tell what we are reviewing today somewhat, which is an Audeze headphone. Today we are going to be reviewing the Audeze LCD-2 regular 2018. So this is the latest revision of the LCD-2 phasered, or LCD-2F as it is often referred to, since there are LCD-2s with and without the phaser, and now the LCD-2 Classic, which also is without the phaser. So one of the coolest parts about getting an Audeze LCD headphone, with the exception of the LCD-2C and 2 closed back, is you get the Pelican case here. So you get a big old Pelican case that says Audeze on it, which is quite neat. So to get on in, you can go ahead here and unsnap the little latches here, and you will open it up to be greeted with your headphones here. So these are the LCD-2 phasered 2018 revision, as you can see here, with the newer style headband, like so. Also in the box you will find the cable, which is the newer style Audeze cable, which we will talk about in a bit, and a 1/4 inch to 3.5 millimeter adapter, as well as your serial number and ownership card right there, as well as a little flash drive with your manual and your warranty information on it. So that is what you get here in the big Audeze case. We will just snap it closed. And that was probably really loud, and we're probably going to mute that. So if there is a big dead space of sound there, sorry for that. I hit my camera, my microphone, and my light trying to get that big old case out of the way. But we are fine, and we are back here with the LCD-2s here. So let's get a few basic specs out of the way, and then we'll start talking about these headphones. So these headphones cost $995. That is their retail price. They are planar magnetic, obviously open back. They have an impedance of 70 ohms, a sensitivity of 101 dB per milliwatt, a frequency response of 10 to 50,000 hertz. And Audeze does not give their weight specifications ever. So these things weigh anywhere from 500 to 600 grams or so, depending on which version, what year, and what wood you have. I'm not entirely sure what wood this is, but this is just the newest version with the newest wood, whatever that wood is. So yeah, weight is going to vary depending on which version you have. So now let's talk about just a little quick intro with these headphones. So the LCD-2 came out, I think originally 2010, 2011, really early on in the 2010s. It has gone through quite a few revisions over the years with different designs, builds, tunings. They added the phasers in 2014-ish, somewhere around there. And so yeah, there's definitely a lot of different models of LCD-2 out there. This particular one, like I mentioned, is the 2018 revision, the newest version with the newer style headband and the phaser arrays here under the pads here. So like I mentioned, this review is going to be applicable to the 2018 version of the LCD-2, and there might be some variance with what I'm saying if you compare to an older version of an LCD-2, which I will mention a few things compared to older versions throughout this video, so keep that in mind. So let's get things started off here with the build. So Audeze build has not always been a strong suit. However, on the newer versions, I think it is actually one of their better features. So they have fixed pretty much all the problems with their build. So the headband is metal up here on the top part with a leather or pleather, whatever this is, strap with the holes cut out of it. On the older Audezes, these would break, but these are metal now. I think it sure feels like metal, so I don't think those break anymore. And the gimbal is just a little screw with a little slide adjust mechanism that's metal right there. Metal yokes, metal grill, wood cups, nice wood finish with the wood that's like all pieced together like so. Giant fat leather pads. Audeze pads are always spectacular. And then little mini 4-pin XLR connectors there on the bottom. So that is a basic overview of the build on the LCD-2. I really like the feel of the build on Audeze's newer revisions of their headphones. On some of the older versions, there was problems with things breaking. Driver imbalances was a big thing for a lot of years with Audeze's, as well as driver failures and inconsistencies with channel matching. That has always been a problem with Audeze's. However, on the newer versions, I think that has all been fixed pretty much for the most part, so you shouldn't have anything to worry about on a newer revision of an LCD headphone. So now for the comfort. So these headphones would be like exceptionally comfortable, except for one thing, and that is the weight. So I'm not a person that heavy headphones get to me as long as the distribution is good. And the distribution on these is definitely good, so I can wear them for quite a long time. However, you definitely are going to feel the weight. These are a heavy, heavy headphone for sure. So these headphones, they do a good job with the strap. I really like the Audeze headband, and I might be replacing a headband of a particular headphone lying around here with an Audeze headband pretty soon. But yeah, I'd really like the Audeze headband in the new style. I do not like their old one before they went to these straps. That headband is not very good. And then the pads are just, Audeze pads are always great. They are so thick. I think they use the thickest pads of any headphone brand. I cannot think of another brand that uses stock pads that are this thick. These are the leather ones. I do not have the vegan pads to try on them. A lot of people say they like the LCD-2 with vegan pads. Don't have them. They're very expensive. I just didn't end up buying them because I'm not going to be keeping these. These are going to be going off to my friend Metal571 right shortly after this review goes out, and he will be checking these out also. And so yeah, so really deep pads, so nobody's ears going to hit in these. Nice headband design. The clamp is definitely up there. These are definitely on the clampier side for headphones, but it's not too bad because the pads are thick, like I mentioned. But the one thing is that weight is probably going to get to a lot of people. So that is the one hindrance with the comfort on these. If these weighed like half as much or like 60% as much, these would be like top tier comfort. But since the weight is there, that's going to be what hurts them. So yeah, weight on these is just the downfall, but comfort on these is going to be a mixed bag for people. I do find them comfortable, although heavy, and you always know you're wearing them. And then as for power, these are not very hard to drive. 70 ohms at 101 dB per milliwatt, very efficient and not too high of a sensitivity, so you shouldn't have any problem driving these off of low-powered amps. And you don't need anything crazy to get these going. If you want EQ, it's going to use a little bit more power, but not too hard to drive. So then as for the cable, if you get the 2018 version of the LCD-2 or the 2 Classic, and I believe they also changed it on the 3 and the X and on the 2 closebacks, you get this cable, which I really like. It is a 4-strand braid cable with a 1/4-inch jack that says Audeze on it. You can see a nice 4-strand braid of black wire with a metal machined Y-split, the little Audeze A logo on it. And then you get some little mini 4-pin XLRs for the headphone connection, and a little piece of red heat shrink there to indicate which side is right. So yeah, I really like Audeze's new stock cable. This is a big improvement over what they used to use for their stock cables back in the day. And I actually have an example of one of those here. This is the stock cable that ZMF still uses, which is the same OEM cable that Audeze used to use. This is just like a generic flat ribbon type cable. And certain Audeses also used to come with balanced cables, and those would also be a cable in this style. So yeah, the new Audeze cable is a vast improvement over that old cable. And yeah, so I really like this cable, one of the better stock cables out there for sure. So now moving on into the sound. So let's talk about the frequency response of these for starters, as always. So these have the perfectly flat all the way down to 20 hertz planar bass, as people come to expect from higher end planar headphones. After that, they have a little bit of an elevation of around 2 or 3 dB at around 800 to 1K, so a slight little bit of elevation in the bottom or upper part of your lower mids, depending on how you define your lower mids. And then after that, they start to roll down at around 1.5K, and they are recessed about 10 dB or so by the time you get to 2K over where you were in the lower mids in the bass area. So from 2 to 3K is pretty much flat, and then after that it continues to dip down even further by the time you hit 3K, and that dips down about another 5 dB from where you were from right around that 2K mark. So you are now about 15 dB down from about 3.5K to around 6K from the baseline. After that, your treble starts to come back up once you pass 6K or so, and by the time you hit 8K, you will hit about the peak of your treble on these headphones, which is pretty much right back in line with that baseline. So you will come back up 15 dB from 6.5 to 8K. We'll have about a 15 dB rise there in the treble, and that'll continue pretty much to 10K, and then after that, the above 10K air isn't that much. So these headphones have a very dark signature and a very warm signature. Technically, you could almost classify it as V-shaped, but this is not what I would consider a V-shaped signature in a traditional sense. This to me is more of that warm, dark signature. So yeah, this is a very traditional Audeze signature, that flat bass with a very recessed mid-range and most of your treble region, with one peak at the very top end around that 8 to 10K mark. So that's pretty typical Audeze sound signature. And then as for other things, your detail is definitely there for a $1,000 headphone. It's definitely going to lag behind your HD800, but most things do. I don't really like comparing things to HD800 because it's pretty technically ahead of many headphones, even for 3 times the price. So that's not a very fair comparison. But as it compares to other things, your detail is definitely there for a $1,000 asking price. As for other good things with these headphones have very good dynamics. They're definitely decently dynamic for a planar headphone. Not the best dynamics you could get for $1,000, but definitely acceptable dynamics for the price point, and compared to other planar headphones, these definitely have quite good bass impact. And one thing I did with these, so I'm not someone who likes to EQ headphones. I am pretty much a purist when it comes to headphones, so I don't really do EQ, but I do have a Pro iCan on loan right now from IFI. There will be a review of that coming shortly, and I did play with the bass boost switch on these, and that was a lot of fun, having these be really bassy and they hit really hard. So yeah, that's a lot of fun. So if you have a pair of these and you like to EQ, definitely try some bass EQs on these, because that was a lot of fun to play with. And then as for other things, the timbre on these is definitely acceptable. It's not overly plasticky or metallic or anything. It's not the most natural timbre I've heard, but it's definitely an acceptable timbre, and it doesn't bother me too much. So good there. I'll definitely give you points there for a relatively natural timbre when it comes to these. Soundstage is also very big. These have a nice, big, wide soundstage, which is pretty typical of Audeze LCD headphones. And then imaging is also definitely acceptable. Definitely good imaging, nothing too spectacular, but for its price, definitely worthwhile in the imaging department. So then something else I want to talk about real quick in the sound segment is how these compare to the LCD-2 Classic. Now, I have not had a 2 Classic here to A/B these against, and I've also never had one at home to listen to in any extent. However, at Can Jam this year, I did hear the 2 back-to-back with the same song off the same equipment, which I believe was a Chord Hugo 2, if my memory serves correctly. And I was listening to the 2 Classic, and then I immediately switched to the LCD-2. And the thing that became apparent within seconds is the LCD-2 is a good bit more detailed than the 2 Classic is, and it also sounds a lot smoother in the FR and a lot cleaner. And I thought the 2s at the show sounded vastly better than the 2 Classics did. And after hearing these at home, these do still sound the same as they did at the show, and my impressions of them have not changed since then. So like I said, I don't have the fairest comparison to the 2 Classics, but from my memory and show impressions, these do still seem pretty vastly superior to those in terms of detail and in terms of FR. Now, like I mentioned, these will be going off to my friend Metal571, and he does have a LCD-2 Classic, so you will get to that comparison video from him. But that is just what I feel and think based upon my brief impressions with the Audeze LCD-2. And then something else I want to mention too is that for whatever reason, the 2 phasered is cheaper used than the 2 Classic is. And that makes no sense to me. You can get a used like 2016 LCD-2, which sound-wise is going to be pretty much identical to these, if not just maybe slightly different because of Aussie driver variants, but pretty much the same sound as these, more or less, for like $500 or less. I've seen pairs of 2016 LCD-2s sell for less than $500 on eBay, and eBay prices are higher than the prices on forums. So that is pretty insane in my book that these are selling for less than the 2 Classic is. Because honestly, in my opinion, based upon my brief impressions, I even think at full retail price, these are worth the $300 more than the 2 Classic. They seem like enough of an upgrade in terms of detail and in terms of FR where I would pay $300 more for the 2 over the 2 Classic. So the fact that you can get a 2016 2 phasered like used for less than a used LCD-2 Classic, let alone new price, is actually pretty insane in my book. And I know the 16 has the old headband, but for $120 you can replace it, so you get it for $500, $120, so $620 you have a 2 phasered with the new headband for less than or around the price that a 2 Classics. So 2 Classics people are asking like $600, $650. I've seen people ask $700 and get it, but most of them sell like $650-ish. Personally, I think the 2 Classic, once again off brief impression, should be $499. I don't think it's worth its, what is it, $800 price point, or is it $800 or $700, whatever it is, or maybe if it's $800, yeah, these are definitely worth $200 more than the 2 Classic. But yeah, so I know why the 2 phaser is selling for less than the 2 Classic used, but I'm not going to say, because then I'm going to have to call somebody out, and we're not going to do that. But if you can get a 2 phasered over a 2 Classic, definitely do so, because they are definitely an upgrade, at least in my book and in my experience. So then moving on to comparisons here. So I wanted to compare these to other around $1,000-ish Planars. So I think their primary competitor is going to be the Hi-Fi Ananda here. But I think these have been price dropped now down to about $850 since I reviewed them. So I think these are now $850. So these are a little bit cheaper than the LCD-2 is now, unless they go back up to $1,000. But retail price, these are both the exact same price. Other things to compare to, like I already mentioned, HD800, but that's not really a fair comparison because pretty much everything loses to HD800 when you compare it. So let's just not even worry about that. The other one's going to be the Focal Lex, and we'll talk about that in a second. And then since I have them here for review, we are going to compare a little bit to the Hi-Fi HE6s here, because these also used sell for around what a new LCD-2 costs, and we're going to talk about that for a little bit, but that's not the fairest comparison. But anyway, so starting off with the Ananda here, the Ananda is lagging behind the LCD-2 in dynamics and detail and in soundstage. What I'll give them over the LCD is comfort, and I much prefer the signature of the Hi-Fi Mins over the Audezes. I'm not a fan of that warm, dark Audeze LCD signature. That's just not my sound signature. I much prefer this more fun Hi-Fi Min signature over that warm, dark Audeze signature. But once again, that's totally preference. You might prefer that warm, dark signature for sure. And if you do, these are definitely technically superior to the Ananda here. So yeah, good points there. So those will definitely pass the Ananda in terms of technical ability. As for the Alex, I think that's probably maybe a little harder of a comparison. I would still take the Alex personally because I prefer the signature of those also. Those are a lot brighter than these are. I think detail-wise, they are definitely going to be pretty close, and dynamics, the Alex might edge them out in dynamics, but that's also going to be fairly close. I didn't really A/B them. That's just something I thought of here when I was about to film this review, how they compare to the Alex. But yeah, definitely if you do not like that dark sound signature, the Alex is going to be definitely a good competitor to these, and definitely something to look at if you don't like the Audeze signature and you don't want to deal with the compression and the sketchy comfort here on the Ananda. And then as for the HE6s here, so this isn't probably the best comparison because you can only get these used now, and you need a nuclear reactor to drive these, and very uncomfortable. Build is sketchy, but these used are anywhere from $800 to $1,100 or so. And as far as technical abilities, these blow the LCD-2s out of the water. These have way better dynamics, better detail, better imaging, pretty much you name it. These pretty much blow these out of the water in terms of technical abilities. Although there's a lot you have to put up with these, and these used are a lot more than an LCD used, pretty much double the price. But if you were going to buy a pair of these new, and you can spend $1,000 and you can get a pair of these HE6s, and you have an amp to drive them, I would seriously look at these because these things are incredible. Spoiler alert for the review of these, which will be coming up very shortly. So look forward to seeing the HE6s review coming up not too far from now. And then somebody's going to ask about the Varums. I'm sure the Varums are just not here in terms of technical ability. I don't even think they were there with the 2 Classics, honestly, from memory, but I'll wait until I hear a 2 Classic at home. But definitely way behind the 2 phasers in terms of detail and in terms of dynamics. Although Varum is still very good for 350, although they are not the LCD-2 killers that a lot of people think they are. So in conclusion, the Audeze LCD-2 2018 is a very good headphone. It is definitely worth its asking price, at least compared to other things at their asking price. I really like the revisions that Audeze has made to their build in the recent years, changing all this stuff to metal, and they feel really nice, really premium. Good comfort overall, except for the weight. The weight is definitely going to be the deterrent on these for a lot of people. The sound is definitely there. Good dynamics, good detail, good soundstage. Warm, dark signature that a lot of people are not going to like, but you might like. I really like the cable, really like the big Pelican case. Not too hard to drive. And yeah, really like these technically, but do not like their signature. But that's just my preference. It doesn't mean that these are bad. These are still really good headphones, and I think a lot of people out there will enjoy them, and I definitely think they are worth a look on your shopping list. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed my review of the LCD-2 here. Once again, these will be going off to my friend Metal571, and I believe he is going to do a comparison video between these and the 2 Classics, so you can look forward to that video from him. Links of where to buy these in the description, as well as the MiniDSP EARS graph, a link to my Twitter and my contact email, as well as all other relevant information for these. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed my review of the LCD-2s here. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.